With God's grace, you can make it. You can do more than just make it. You can thrive. Hey, this is John Fuller with Focus on the Family. I get the privilege of working on the broadcast with Jim Daly every day and helping run the radio team. We are trying to help families thrive and understand that with God's grace, you can make it. You can do more than just make it. You can thrive. I have a beautiful family. The Lord's given me 5 kids biologically and 1 child through adoption. And one of those kids, the older ones, is married, so we have 7 kids now. And it's a privilege to have a family like that, just sitting around the table. At holiday times, when we get together, I feel rather patriarchal as we sit around, and I can't get a word in edgewise. It's really fun to watch them interact with each other, to have conversations that I know were shaped way back when, and that they want to hang out with each other. That's a real gift. So Focus on the Family was started in 1977 by Dr. James Dobson, and the heart was to help families. He observed families struggling with parenting issues, with crumbling marriages, with cultural influences. And none of that has changed, unfortunately. It's only intensified. And under Jim Daly, our current president, we've had 5 key areas of ministry. That's evangelism, that drives who we are. We want people to come to know Jesus. He is ultimately the author of life, the creator of the family, and the one who's going to sustain and make that work the best according to his design. We're also about marriage, about parenting. We're about engaging the culture and speaking out for those who have no voice, the preborn and those who are in foster care. And eventually we'll probably have a ministry for the elderly as well. A lot of elderly are in places where they don't have voices. But everything that we do is designed to help come alongside and help those families. I like to tell people that we've kind of gone from what the ideal is, and that's what you shoot for, to we all miss the ideal, myself included, and we're all trying to live out a pretty messy life in a world full of contradictions and challenges, but there is redemption, there is restoration. God does move in the midst of difficulty, and the focus of what we're trying to say is it's not about performance and law, it's about grace, understanding, and recovery. So as a parent, I've messed up plenty of times, and I've got to somehow forget those mess ups and just key in on showing my kids grace. You can do the same. In my marriage, I offend my wife, I do stupid things to hurt her, and she's got to be able to forgive me. I've got to get past that and try to ask God to give me the power of the Spirit to do that better. The beauty of what we do is, as I said at the beginning, it's about evangelism and discipleship. That's really where we're driving. We have a clear Christian message. We believe the Scripture is the heart of God revealed to us. It's the truth, it's the moral compass, it's the way that we can walk and really prosper in life if we follow that book. So it's hard to understand sometimes, but let's go ahead and unpack that, what it means contextually, and let's apply that to life every day as an individual or as a family. And let's see that great story of redemption that God has. Let's see that at work in our relationships, just generally, but specifically in the home, where I don't always bring my best game, but the Lord's always active and moving. So we try to do this through a variety of media. We bring that message of redemption in family and grace in God's life through radio programs, through podcasts, through magazines, through curriculum, through events, through all sorts of different things. It's a pretty rich experience. And then behind the scenes, God has allowed Focus on the Family to have counselors, to have resources, to have a lot of neat tools that meet people where they're at in a point of need. So it's a really neat package where the front end is kind of the media stuff, the back end is one-on-one, people on the phone, through email, through actual counseling sessions, all designed to bring restoration, redemption, and hope to families that feel like, oh, we can't do this. So I think in terms of the past 10, 15, 20 years for families, the challenges, we've all experienced them. My kids are 31 down to 16. So When my oldest was 15, he got a Facebook account. That was kind of one of the first years Facebook was really even out there. And when he went off to college, I got a Facebook account to follow him. It's a lot more complex now, isn't it? And that device in the back pocket, oh my goodness, it has changed so much. At the heart of it, we still have the age-old issues that I experienced when I was a teen, that I've experienced as a dad to teens, and those issues are, a child wanting to be independent, a child wanting to go out and make their mark on the world. I think we have kids who are a little afraid to do that. The culture says you got to make your millions by the time you're 23 or else you've messed up. Or they feel like I'm entitled to just hang out and I don't need to, I can't handle that pressure quite yet. So I think there are a lot of cultural influences that have made parenting and marriage harder. Certainly I've experienced that in our own family. Some of the things that remain key though are what's at the center of the family. Are you driving relationships? Are you spending time together? Are you intentionally cultivating conversations that may be uncomfortable but good because you got to process this stuff? Are you preparing your kids to leave the house? I like to tell parents that you don't have until you're 18. We had a baby shower for one of our kids, and somebody said, well, the next 18 years are going to be different. And I just thought, no, the rest of my life is different. And certainly I don't have until they're 18. I have until they're probably 12 to 15. After that, they're going to be doing their own thing, like it or not. And so those first 10 to 12 years are crucial for you to develop a relationship, to make it authentic, to let your kid know who you are and how you've messed up and the lessons you've learned along the way. And then you've got to start releasing them and let them mess up while they're in your home. The worst thing you can do is control, or think you're controlling until they're 18, and then they go off to college or they go off to live on their own, and it's a free-for-all. I've seen too many train wrecks with that. So the end goal that you really want to aim for in your family relationships is having good relationships beyond these parenting years for you and the kids and you and your wife. So do the first 18 years well, especially the first 10 or 12, just by showing up and being intentional, by affirming, I love you, by giving grace when they mess up and helping them. And maybe you'll be able to have the richness of Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners together where everybody wants to be together because you haven't made it about how high can you jump and you've performed well, but you've made it about relationship. Keep the scriptures central to all of that, and you should do pretty well. There are a lot of great tools and resources. Find something that works for you, and then just dial in and do parenting and do marriage the best you can. And remember that you're going to mess up, but God is gracious. I think there are milestones in children's lives. When they're younger, they just look up to you like you can't do anything wrong. And by the time they get to be, 10, 12, 15, they're rolling their eyes like, what planet are you from, Dad? I mean, geesh. So we've raised 6 kids. The youngest is 16. We've had kind of the milestone marks where 10, 12 years old, when they're hitting adolescence, we take them away. We have conversations. And I think probably you need to start 8 to 10 these days, not 10 to 12, just because there's so much sexuality in the culture. But that's hey, you're hitting adolescence here. You're going to have a hormone bath that's going to alter your thinking. It's going to alter your emotions. It's going to alter your body. And I'm with you. One of the things I did on those getaways, I took all the kids at some point. My wife took the girls to really concentrate on some mommy-daughter time. But one of the things I did was I set up a chair with an 8-foot-long 2x4 straddling these 2 chairs. So I would blindfold the child and put them on the chair and just say, now, you're 10 years old. Let's just assume that you got to walk across that 2x4 you saw before I blindfolded you. And you've got to walk from that point to that point blindfolded with no help. Do you think you want to do that? Do you want to walk across that 2x4 with no help? No, Dad, no, I want you to help me. Good. That's what I want you to remember and that I would take their hand and just walk them across, guide them across to the other side. Adolescence is just this. I've been there, I know what it is, and I can see in a way that you can't see. When you're in adolescence, you're blindfolded, so I'm going to help you get across to the other side. But you got to trust me, and you got to know that sometimes it's my experience and my wisdom and my insights that are going to guide you. You may not like it. You may say, I can do this. You're going to fall. If that happens, I'll pick you up. We'll start over. But I want you to get to the other side well, because it's not about me controlling you until you turn out right. It's about you learning to make the decisions, but you're just going to have to trust me. We've got to do this ourselves. So that's an adolescence conversation I think every parent has to have at some form. Also to talk very clearly about sexuality. This is what we believe. This is right and wrong. This is why I believe it. You know, with regard to sexuality, the culture has so many messages of just follow your feelings, you don't need to wait. I mean, so many of our kids are having sexual experiences by the time they're 15, 16. And that's regrettable, and some of those kids get pregnant, and that's hard. For us, we relied on a pretty conservative biblical understanding of sexuality. God designed it. I've told my kids, God designed sexuality to be a beautiful gift. It's wonderful. You will enjoy it. But there's a kind of a plan that God has for you. And the plan is to hold on to your sexuality, to suppress that appetite, to wait to fulfill that appetite fully until you're in marriage. That's the beauty of the gift that you can give your spouse, your future spouse. Now, by God's grace, not because of my boasting, my wife and I were both virgins when we got married. So that's part of our story as we talk to our kids. The biblical model's clear. God designed sexuality to be fully enjoyed in the marital union. It's not something to be played with before then. It's not something where you just say, no, we don't need boundaries. So have conversations with your kids about boundaries and about feelings and about the hormones and about the temptations they're going to experience that we've all been through as adults. But you learn to bridle that appetite to say, I'm going to wait. You don't feed the appetite. It's going to take you down a path that ultimately is going to have some heartache and some ramification. I think there are other conversations. We came home one time and my wife discovered that one of my kids was on the computer, the family room computer with filters. They had figured out how to bypass the filters. Okay, now there are images stuck in that child's head, and we had to have conversations. We could shame, or we can say, I'm really sorry, and offer grace and guidance toward some proper perspectives. What are you going to do in those moments? You got to think it through. Don't be the parent that says, you messed up, how could you? Be the parent that says, I'm sorry, how can I help? If you offer grace, understanding, and not judgment when your kids mess up, I mean, go back to when you were 15, 16. I made mistakes. My parents were pretty forgiving. You got to do that if you want to make sure your kids don't run away from you and your values. There's no guarantee, but those are hard conversations to have when you discover your child's been doing something or hiding something. One of my kids had an eating disorder. That was disconcerting. I mean, it was hard to hear that. I wondered, what did I do to contribute to that? What's wrong? How can I help? And fortunately, she's way better now. And there's a recovery story there, but it was a we're in this with you moment. It wasn't a figure that out and let me know how it turns out. It's time for parents to double down and say, we all mess up, let's do this together. When I came to Focus on the Family in 1991, I'd been listening to Focus. We aired the broadcast on my radio station down in Texas. I think I had a pretty good handle on this parenting thing. We had 2 kids, one was just born, so the youngest was a newborn. And we tried to do the formula thing, because that's what you did back in the 90s. You had a formula. You know, this input equals that output. Oh my, how God has helped me. He's helped me see that I don't have a formula to apply. That's not what this is about. I have a relationship to develop and a life with Christ to live out in front of my kids. I'm going to do that imperfectly, but ideally, I'm going to do that with intentionality and with consistency. So the struggling parent, the struggling marriage, keep at it and know that your kids will pick up. Know that your spouse will see the difference as you continue to walk toward Christ. It's not a do this and then this happens. It's a do this because that's the plan. That's God's best. If you do this, there's no guarantee, but it's going to just go a lot easier. The journey is what He's interested in. Are you walking faithfully, obediently, day by day? If you are, I think He'll bless you.
God is love, and love comes from God. In 1 John, the Bible tells us that God is not only all-loving, but that He actually is love itself. The heart of the Parent Compass television show is to bring the transforming love of God to families everywhere. In every Parent Compass episode, true stories reveal family struggles and how their lives were radically changed by the love of God. Parent Compass, an award-winning television series, is completely funded by people like you. If you have been touched by God and you want to share God's love to others, would you please pass it on? Jesus tells us to go into all the world and to tell about Him. With your donation, you allow us to take this television show into many different nations and in many different languages, free of charge. And a portion of your donation goes to Parent Compass Outreach to feed starving children. Your gift does so much. To make your tax-deductible gift, go to parentcompass.tv/donate. That's parentcompass.tv/donate. And thank you for sending love and hope around the world.